These dishes are sure to dazzle, and even the newest of cooks are able to make a pleasing meal. Look at those colors. We're making an eggplant with tahini sauce and a Mediterranean meatball bowl. Hello and welcome to Mary Morrissey Studio, where I cook with no sugar added, so the flavor really comes out in these delicious dishes. I like these two dishes because anybody can make them, and they are so vibrant, full of color and flavor. It does take a lot of slicing and dicing, which make these perfect if you want to cook with someone that you care about. And trust me, I think this would be great on any date. It's a great way to spend time with someone and get to know them. The recipe is listed down below in the description. The roasted eggplant is so easy to make. You take one large eggplant, cut into 1/2-inch slices, and then what you're going to do is you can either dip or brush olive oil, extra virgin please, on both sides of your eggplant, and then also salt and pepper on both sides of your eggplant. You're going to line a baking sheet and place your eggplants on this baking sheet. You want to make sure that you've preheated your oven to 350 degrees, and you're going to cook them for 20 minutes. Then after 20 minutes, you're going to flip them and cook for an additional 20 minutes. Now, while you're doing that, you're waiting for it to cook, you can move on to your next dish, which is the Mediterranean meatball bowl. Now, when you cook the meatballs on this one, your oven's going to have to be at 375 degrees. So after your eggplant is finished, you're probably ready to put the meatballs in. So then you're going to make sure that your oven goes up an additional 25 degrees Fahrenheit. So now let's get into it. Our Mediterranean meatball. So basically what this is meatballs and a lot of sliced and diced vegetables on top of tabbouleh. It looks complicated, but it's really easy. Once again, it's just a lot of slicing and dicing. For this, you need 3 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil. You're going to need 1 12-ounce package of riced cauliflower, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, 1 teaspoon dried oregano, salt, pepper. You're going to need a tomato, a cucumber, a small red onion, a lemon, Kalamata olives, and then for the meatballs, you're going to need freshly chopped cilantro. You're going to need 2 garlic cloves, salt and pepper again, and then 1 pound of ground beef. So I've taken out my eggplant, meanwhile, and then what you do is you flip them. So I'm flipping them and getting ready to put them in for the next 20 minutes. So I'm timing that, I'm setting the timer, and here we are back to our Mediterranean meatball bowl. Now this garlic is supposed to be minced. Now you can buy it that way, but I really do love fresh garlic. So, of course, I've sped up all of the timing on this video, but I always suggest that you really take your time in chopping, especially if you're new at it. I take my time. It's a relaxing meditation. There's the timer, and it seems that our eggplant is done. So I'm going to pull that out of the oven, and it looks delicious. Should be crispy and browned around the edges. And since this is our first dish, I'm going to place it in a serving dish here, And as I'm placing it in, I'm going to put some paprika onto it. That gives a really great flavor. And I'm putting them in this container so that it'll keep some of the warmth in, because by the time our meatballs are done, we want a little bit of heat still on this, but it doesn't have to be piping hot. If you want it a little hotter with the meatball bowl, you can always stick this back into the oven the last 5 minutes of your meatballs. I'm covering that up and I'm going to set that aside, and I'm just going to give you a preview of the eggplant, and I'm going to give it a taste. The meatballs are going to need another pan, and this one you're going to want to put a wire rack on it. So that one's all prepped. You have your nice ground beef. You're going to add that with your 1/2 cup of chopped fresh cilantro, your garlic that's been minced, your salt, pepper, and you mix it with your hand. Make sure it's really mixed in. You want all those flavors really blending together. And then you make your little meatballs. You want them approximately 1.5 inches. Not too big. You want to make sure that they get cooked. You want to make sure if somebody eats it in one bite that they can do that comfortably. And you line them up. Your oven is ready at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's going to be 25 to 30 minutes. So I'm setting it for 30 minutes, and I can check at the 25 mark and see how it goes. Then I'm going to be doing my riced cauliflower. Now this was a challenge. This one came out as a nice big rock. It usually doesn't do that, but I wasn't going to hide that from you. I wanted to show you how I deal with it when it comes out of the 12-ounce package that way. Now you can bang it against your counters, but if you rent, we don't want to ruin your counters. So I showed you what I did. I got a knife, and as it was getting heated, it was easily broken apart. So you add your garlic powder and your salt and pepper and cook those together. So now I'll be chopping my onions, and I like to clean as I go, so I wrap up the half that I'm not going to use and I chop all the others. Once again, this is all sped up, so I look so fancy, don't I? But all this takes time, which is another reason why this recipe is so great to have someone with you. You really get to talk about things and take a moment in life, which is always fun. And I hear the buzzer, so I'm checking on my meatballs. And you know, the thermometer is so great. You know, they usually cost anywhere from $10 to $30, and they're so worth it. I didn't buy one in my younger years, and now that I have one, they're priceless. As you saw, I checked the heat of the meatball. It looked done, but my thermometer told me it still wasn't done yet. So I stuck them back into the oven, and I started slicing and dicing some more. And if you have someone with you, they can slice up the tomato while you're doing the cucumber. Or if you're doing this alone, you can always turn up that music, your favorite music that you never have a chance to listen to. Now, when it comes to cooking with tomatoes, I've always been one to salt them. So do that if you like or not. And now I'm prepping the Kalamata olives. Now you can either put them in whole or you can slice them. I decided to slice them because when I eat things, I really like to taste all the flavors integrated together. Now I'm going back to my meatballs. I did check them with a thermometer and they were done. So I got this glass container. I'm going to put all the meatballs into the container and cover them up to keep them a little bit warm while I am prepping everything else. So now I'm going back to the eggplant and I'm going to plate it for our meal. And so these, once again, they already have the paprika sprinkled on top. That gives that a lovely flavor. And now like I told you, you could make homemade tahini sauce if you want to do that, but I had so much other chopping to do, I decided I was going to buy the store bought, and I top it with a little cilantro to make it nice and green, and I put on some pine nuts. I love the pine nuts. It gives them a nice little delicate crunch. And that's what those look like. Now let's plate our Mediterranean meatball bowl. So here's your rice, your cauliflower rice. So I only put about a spoonful of the cauliflower rice, and I put that at the bottom. So we're going to have leftovers on that. So that's what is so fabulous about this. So you can also eat this tomorrow for lunch. And you have plenty of meatballs. You have to decide how many meals you want to get out of it and then disperse them. So I've placed about 4, and I'm using those meatballs for tomorrow's meal. Next up we have our cucumbers, and I always like to eat more greens than anything else, so I'm always pretty generous with anything that's going green that's fresh in the meal. So I'm pretty generous with that. And once again, I like to put things back into the refrigerator because I'm going to be using this for tomorrow's meal, so I want to make sure that everything stays fresh. And that's why a lot of my bowls have the lids so that I can pop them straight into the refrigerator for tomorrow's meal. So I've put on the fresh tomatoes. Like I said, they were salted earlier. Now I'm putting on the Kalamata olives that I had sliced and diced. Now some fresh onion. Don't be too heavy-handed with the onion because you don't want to overpower all the other flavors in your bowl. So just a little topping there. And last but not least, your cilantro. A little lemon wedge. And there you go, there's your bowl. You're going to top that with some tahini sauce and pair it with your eggplant. Please subscribe and follow, and enjoy your amazing meal.